Hello. I'm going to make a quick demo. This was not supposed to be a talk, but it's kind of an extension of the previous talk from r2con2019. The idea is basically to show the new features in panels mode, also the integration with r2con2019 or the decompilers by itself. I have r2con2019 and r2dec will have it now if it's not in here. But basically, when you load a binary right now, we have the visual mode, which is the uppercase B. But if you use the lowercase b, you will get into the panels mode. Okay? You can use the exclamation mark to toggle between the visual mode and panels mode. And when you're in panels mode, well, you can resize the thing. And you can actually use the mouse. I'm clicking in different panels, you can see. We can also click in the menus. So we can pick different decompilers. It's auto-detecting all of the compilers that are supported or installed as plugins in here. We can change the settings also, for example, for the disassembly. We want to change, for example, and toggle the bytes. We can also close the panels by pressing the X. And if we click in the title, we can actually change the contents of the panel. So, for example, we can use the decompiler in here. So as long as the function is not analyzed, the compiler is not working. So I will just click in here and then analyze function. Oops. Yeah. So now we have the compilation on the right side. But as you can see, this is the compiler of PTC, which is the compiler that comes inside R2, which is not really a compiler, it's just a pseudo disassembler with some nice output. But the output is not correct at all. I mean, it can be useful for having like an idea of what's going on in here, but it's not really a compiler. So as we can see, if we check into the, we should have now the PDD, which is r2dec. So we have PDC, which is the default that comes with R2. You can see there are some reference to strings, register names, there are no variable names, function calls, etc. But you can see that this is not really something that you will expect to rely on. So until now, we had PTD, which was the r2dec decompiler, which is written in JavaScript, and the output is quite nice, but it's not removing the trash code or making many optimizations on the output. There is also support for radare2's, and there will be a talk later today about that. But in order to show the different options that we have in the decompilers and the way to integrate that into R2, we will see that there are some output, some subcommands of the PDD, and also it's also available in PDG, which is, for example, the PDD-O, which shows the output of the decompiler next to the offset. So you can see the offset next to this assembly, right? And if we use PDG, which is the Ghidra decompiler, we can actually use the same thing. Was removed. Oops. Yeah. Was working in version from yesterday. So yeah, let's pick the compiler, and if we choose, for example, PDD was working fine. But we can change the contents with the output of the compiler. We can enable the cache, so the output of the contents of this panel will not be updated every time that we scroll or do whatever. Otherwise, it will be quite slow. So we can resize the window, and in here you can see. Demo FX. Well, you can actually click on things, so you can, for example, highlight the register values, register names, or instructions, which is kind of handy if you want to analyze like different some pieces of assembly code. So we analyze the code. And here we can, for example, pick the different functions by just clicking at them in the offset. We can use the mouse wheel to scroll around the panel. And same goes for the output of the compiler. So if I change the output of this panel to contain the PDD-O, we will see that you get the output in there, and we can actually change the view to the disassembly, and we can scroll around. You can see that the output is updated. This function are kind of small, yeah. And the output is catch. So we can, for example, click in here, close this panel, and we can scroll around. And you can see always the output of the compiler. So we can click in the other panel and scrolling there, and you can actually highlight the different offsets and actually highlight the same offset in the other side. It was supposed to be working. So yeah. So that's more or less the new features that are coming in R2. And also, another way to integrate the compiler output inside R2 is that if we analyze the function and we integrate the output of the compiler of the function inside inside the R2 with comments, we can go into visual mode, for example, and in the disassembly view, we can see that on the right side, the output of the compiler is added as comments. So we can press a hash, and then it basically removes all the disassembly and offsets, and we see the decompiler output in the disassembly view. So you have like all the jump lines and all the control flow graph and so on, also working with the output of the compiler. So you can use the output of the compiler with the output of the in the graph view or in the disassembly view, and you can just basically toggle that with using the hash key. Okay, so yeah, that's a quick overview on how to use at least r2deck and r2jitterer inside R2, and what are the new features of panels mode in the last version of R2. So yeah, now let's start with the next talk, which was starting in 2 minutes. Thank you.